So you guys probably heard that Anubis is absolutely crazy, and I'll tell you why. This card plays this card, and then this card plays this card, or even multiples, and it's absolutely free, and you gain memory. Alright, Digi-Egg cards, we're bringing back the BT6 Sunamon, which has the inheritable effect of your turn once a turn. When you trash a card from your hand, you get to draw one. We're purple base, we're drawing a lot, we're trashing a lot. That's our main goal of this deck. So being able to sort of draw an extra card when you do so is going to be very, very beneficial and really helpful. And this is my main go-to egg for the deck overall. Now let's talk about our rookies. Starting off, we're playing Goblimon right here. Because I talked about trashing, drawing a lot, this Goblimon is perfect because it has that your turn once per turn inheritable. When effect trashes a card from your hand, you get to gain a memory back, and that's going to be really crucial when it comes to our other combos, which I'll talk about more, and with the whole lineup of how we should build the Anubismon deck. But for the secondary rookie that we want to go for is Ignitemon right here. Ignitemon is very crucial when you Digicross with Mervamon specifically, but it has that really neat when attacking effect by deleting one of your other Digimon. You can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the same level that's unsuspended or less, which is kind of neat as well. You can get rid of stuff with it, which is very, very clutch. But mainly you play for its inheritable because that as all turns once per turn, when you play a Digimon by an effect, you get to gain a memory. You're going to be doing a lot of that in this particular Anubismon deck, so you definitely want to be seeing this Ignitemon as often as possible, especially when you're going for the Digicross combos. For Floodgate rookies of choice, I am going for 2 Gazis and 1 Psychmon here. You guys can juggle between your ratios. You can even do 2 and 2 split if you want to maximize the Floodgate rookie counts a little bit, just because they're very, very important in this particular format. Having a Floodgate rookie can sort of buy yourself an entire turn, and buying yourself that one turn can help you actually then eventually close the game or secure the win condition very, very easily and very quickly. But I prefer Gazimon overall just because Psychmon does counter yourself a little bit, but there are times that you do play Psychmon at the very end once you establish a wide enough board. We'll talk about it more in the combos overall, but that's just sort of my reasoning with my rookie lineup when it comes to the Floodgates. And then last but not least, we play one more rookie right here, which is kind of out of nature, where we have Spadamon. Now there's a very good reason why we play it. We're going to talk about it more when we get into it, but just to give you an explanation, we're going to be Digicrossing, not specifically with this guy, but we get to play this back with Mervamon, and we could potentially de-Digivolve one of our opponent's Digimon as well. And it's going to come in really handy. We'll talk about it more combos as well later on to explain why this card is actually really, really clutch and really, really good. So let's now talk about our level 4s. Got 4 copies of Ogremon from BT14. Ogremon is just really good because your turn once per turn, when one of your effect trashes a card from your hand, you get to gain a memory. Its inheritable basically is the exact same thing, kind of like Goblimon, which is why we go for this entire sort of stack building. We want to Digivolve into Gobbly and then go into Ogre. That's sort of how we want to build a stack, because every time we trash cards from our hand, we get to gain memory back, and that's your main level 4 that you always want to be Digivolving into. The secondary level 4 that you want to be seeing is actually Doberman X Antibody right here. Really fantastic because on play, one of your Digimon gains Retaliation. You can give it to itself, or you can give it to anybody else on the board too that you have. It has that when Digivolving effect of draw and trash one, and then if you have Doberman or X Antibody in this Digivolution's sources, you get to activate its on-play effect as well. Doesn't really happen. We're not going for the X Antibody sort of style. We're not going for Doberman plays whatsoever, but its inheritable is that your turn once per turn, when effect plays a Digimon, you get to gain a memory back. You guys can see the trend here, you know? That's the whole reason why we play Gobbly, Ignite, Ogre, and Doberman. Lots of memory gain, playing stuff, gains this memory, trashing cards, gains this memory, and yeah, really, really good card right there. Then, to round off for our level 4s, we got 2 copies of the Saberjamon right here. This card...
How did you get that? Isn't that expensive?
The things I do for the deck profile, guys, the things I do. We don't talk about how much it is, but you know what? Help me out. Support the AVAULT store. It helps a lot to help me financially recover from this. But anyways, speaking of which, this Saberjamon is incredibly good and very, very core to this deck. It is Raid and Retaliation, so you can play it back with Merva essentially, and it can have all the capabilities with Merva. Being able to Raid is insanely good because you can then Retal against the opponent's Digimon. you delete itself, you get to trade really effectively as well. And it has that inheritable, which sometimes is useful, is that on deletion, you get to return one purple Digimon card from your trash back to your hand. Any purple Digimon card. That's absolutely insane. So yeah, this card is just very, very crucial to the deck. It makes it a whole lot better when you run it for sure. And I definitely recommend at least 2. But now let's talk about our level 5s. 4 copies of the blue Mervamon here. Essentially has retaliation itself, but also when digivolving, draw 2, trash 2, exactly just like Lady Devimon. And it has that inheritable, all turns once a turn. When you play a Digimon by an effect, you get to gain a memory back as well. So incredibly good card, helps you cycle, find your pieces, gives you the draw power that you need. And you guys can see as you rack up with all your inheritables, you're gaining so much when you go into this guy for sure to help you find your top end combo. Then for the exact same reason, we're also running the 2 copies of the older Lady Devimon, which has that same effect of when digivolving, draw 2, trash 2. I value drawing and trashing a lot just because that's really crucial for this deck. I want to be able to ramp up as quickly as possible. And it has that inheritable, which is kind of nice of your turn once your turn. When you use a option card, you can delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon, which can be kind of handy sometimes because when you go into your top end, afterwards, you might need to use an option card to get rid of your opponent's Floodgate rookies. Not the most ideal way to do it, but still a nice to have just in case and sometimes, because you do really need to deal with Floodgate rookies for this particular deck because it does counter it quite a bit. Therefore, speaking of which, I'm running 2 copies of Mervamon Vicious Mode right here. It has both on play and with digivolving effect. You trash 1 card from your hand if you trash the purple, which is the main color card that we're playing in this deck. We don't really get to trash a yellow card in particular, but we need to delete a level 3 Digimon on the board, mainly Floodgate rookies. It has that on deletion effect, inheritable. If this Digimon has 2 more colors, you get to gain 2 memory back, which is kind of okay. It can come a clutch in some situations, depending on how you build the top end, but overall it doesn't come as often. Therefore, anyways, Mervamon is my main source go-to in order to get rid of my opponent's Floodgate rookies. And then, because I trash a card from my hand, my inheritables get to activate and gain me that memory afterwards too. We'll talk about more again in the combo section later on, but that's it for level 5s. Let's talk about our level 6s. 4 copies of this brand new Anubismon, which is absolutely insane. It has a when digivolving main once per turn effect. You can trash up to 3 cards from your hand, and you get to play 1 purple Digimon card from your trash, any purple Digimon card, and you get to reduce the play cost by 3. And then for every card that you trash, which ideally would be 3, you reduce it by another 3 costs. So in maximum capacity, you can reduce the play cost of that Digimon by 6. And then afterwards, it has this your turn effect, secondary effect, which is not even once per turn. When an effect plays a Digimon, you get to delete one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. If nothing's deleted, you get to draw one. Recurring your resources basically after from what you trash and cycling through your deck continuously is just absolutely insane and bonkers. And you guys know that this card is restricted and it's going to be effective in March. Therefore, we're going to be doing an updated version by then. If you want to see updated versions of deck lists and all the stuff that I work on that I've been cooking, definitely join the AVAULT Club as you get to see it there first. And that's where I get to post all these decks beforehand, even before this video. So definitely consider joining if you haven't done so yet. But yes, Anubismon is definitely an incredibly insane card. And the whole reason that ties it together is also because we're playing 4 copies of Mervamon from BT11 right here. This is how it works. You are able to use Anubismon to reduce the cost by 6, and what you're mainly going to try and play out is Mervamon. Mervamon can then digicross, further reducing her play cost by 3. Effectively, you're going to be digicrossing and playing Mervamon for 2 costs. And with all the inheritables that you guys can see earlier on, you're gaining memory as this entire process, which is why you get to play this Mervamon for free. That's the entire combo, which I'll showcase you guys when we get into it, when I play Anubismon, go into that whole Merva thing. But Merva is just fantastic because it can help you play 2 extra bodies back out afterwards. And if the Digimon that she plays out has Crossheart in their traits or Retaliation, they gain Rush and Blocker, giving you a lot of offensive and defensive applications all at the same time. So therefore, you don't really want to Digivolve into Mervamon. You normally want to be, hard playing it via Digicrossing and alongside Anubismon's effect. But if you don't see Anubis, sometimes you might have to Digivolve into her just for an early game momentum that you just can't, be slowed down upon on. So yeah, 4 copies is definitely what I recommend. Some of you guys can run 3 instead, but which you can get away. We also have more level 6s. We are pretty heavy on it, but that's totally okay because we're playing a lot of stuff for free. I like to play 1 copy of Leviamon. Some of you guys want to play 2 copies just because it's really good with his entire effect. It does cost 5 to Digivolve, but itself has security +1. It has on play and when digivolving effect. If your opponent has as many or more total Digimon and Tamers than you do, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level, and then you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level afterwards as well. So being able to pop 2 things in one go is absolutely insane, because you can get rid of those bodies, and it has an all turns effect that's not even once per turn as well. When an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you get to gain 1 memory back. So effectively, when you pop 2 things with this guy, you're effectively just digivolving it for 3 instead. And then there you go, you have a 13k body with security +1 on the board. It can give you so much momentum and advantages, and it can turn games around, which is absolutely insane. And yeah, I'm excited for a full-on Mervamon deck coming up soon as well. So stay tuned for those. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. But that's it for our level 6s. Let's talk about our level 7 lineups. We're playing one of each, Rune Mode and Death-X right here. These 2 cards are just definitely so good. If you guys seen my staple videos that I talked about recently, they're just incredibly useful and very, very good against different matchups, especially when it comes to competitive play. If you're playing Anubismon, just because they can both digivolve on top of purple potentially, Death-X is absolutely insane. You can actually reduce its play cost alongside with Anubismon as well, making it further like almost free. Essentially, playing Death-X for free like this is insane. Shine Greymon is used to seal the deal, to help you secure your win condition, to stop your opponents from promoting. Shine Greymon Rune Mode is used to help seal the deal, turn off the entire game against your opponent, you know, buying yourself that extra turn by with the blanket 5k or even potentially blanket 10k. And just by doing that, you can just essentially then win the game the next turn as well. And it synergizes quite nicely with Make Crackmon Vicious Mode when it's inheritable, because when you delete, you get to gain memory back as well. So yeah, these 2 cards are really, really important, and that's definitely why I highly suggest at least one of each for sure. That's it for all of our Digimon. Let's talk about options, consistency and searching and all that. We go for the purple staples. We got 4 copies of Wisdom Training to help you search and reduce your Digivolution costs as you climb through, which is absolutely insane. And of course, we got the 4 copies of Purple Memory Boost as well. You really need to see these cards as soon as possible in the early stages, because they help you find specific pieces to help you build your stack and give you that boost in consistency that otherwise you wouldn't have. And then last but not least, this one can be sort of like a tech choice or a flex spot. I'm playing 1 Pummel Whack just because I really need, again, I think this deck is very weak against like Floodgate rookies, and you do need to deal with it. And with Pummel Whack, you can delete anything for 3 costs that's like level 4 or lower. So getting rid of that rookie is going to be really helpful. Otherwise, if you trash this card from your hand, you get to draw 1 back, kind of like Underworld's Call, which is kind of neat. So yeah, this is my one-off option in the end there. Other tech choices and cards that we want to talk about. You guys might be wondering, why not be playing Labramon? That's because I am focusing a lot on the drawing and trashing, specifically from hand aspect of this particular build. So you guys can see more in the combos later on as I explain, but Labramon is again a really, really good card because it can help you recur your dark animals or your shaman cards, so you can grab stuff back if they're ever in the trash earlier stages, and it gains you a memory back when you play something, which is kind of nice as well. Then for another level 4, I have Soulmon here from BT11. It has Retaliation itself. If you guys play Merva deck back in the day, you guys know how good this card really is. It gives you a 2k buff all turns and all your Digimon with Retaliation as well, which is absolutely fantastic. No inheritable, that's totally fine though. Its main effect itself there just provides you so much already. As another way to get rid of Floodgate rookies other than just Make Crackmon, I've also play tested with this 1 Black Wargroundmon, which is kind of nice. You don't really need to trash a card from your hand in order to sort of like delete your opponent's stuff, because all you do is when Digivolving, you trash the top 3 cards of both players' decks, and then you can potentially pop double Floodgate rookies if the opponent ever has it too, because you know you can rack up starting at like 3000 DP, and then you can rack up to 2000 extra on top, or potentially even more depending on how many cards on both players trash. But this one doesn't provide any inheritable and does cost 4 to Digivolve, so you might be difficult when it comes to gaining memory back with this particular card, but still really good. Another one you can play is Lucemon Chaos Mode. You can play this alongside with Anubis as well, potentially, because you can pop Tamers, you can pop any level 6, which is absolutely insane when you synergize with that. And yeah, another really, really fantastic good card that you can utilize Anubismon's effect. After all, this deck does draw and trash a lot of cards, therefore Nidhoggmon can kind of be a decent one as well to sort of include, helping you gain a memory when you trash it, or otherwise you Digiball onto it to get rid of level 4 or lower Digimon too. Really up to you guys as well. Another card that I've always debated I want to add is Calling from Darkness, just because it's really good to give you a bit of versatility of deleting your own Digimon and also grabbing pieces back and cycle things back. it's always just a really good purple staple to always include and sort of consider as well. And then last but not least, for an alternative sort of like level 5 lineup, you can also kind of play with like a small package, is actually Lady Devimon from EX1, other than just the blue Mervamon, and Rivals Barrage alongside with this package. What this does is that when you Digivolve, you trash the top 3 cards from your deck, and then it has that same kind of inheritable of when you play a Digimon from your trash, you get to gain a memory back. And because you're milling, you might want to sometimes mill into a Rivals Barrage. What I would actually recommend is you might play 3 copies of Lady Devimon and 3 copies of Rivals Barrage and take out the other parts of the engine, but keeping the blue Mervamon core in there. And what you get to do with this is that because you might realize there's not much security bombs in this deck, therefore, if you go for this package, you actually give yourself a bit of security bomb and a bit of a surprise and a bit of defensive play and removal, which can actually help you turn games around very, very greatly and unexpectedly against your opponents. Which is why when you go for this Lady Devimon, you would go with alongside with this Rivals Barrage to potentially get yourself a bit more value, because if you do mill that Rivals Barrage, you can also grab any pieces that you want back from your trash too, which can be very, very beneficial as well. Alright, combos and how to play the Anubismon deck. Of course, in the early stages of the game, you want to be able to see sort of your stack building pieces, you want to be able to see your level 3s, 4s that you can Digivolve, and then your 5s. Ideally, it's going to be blue Mervamon, and then you do want to see your Anubis as soon as possible, because as well as Mervamon, and that's sort of how it goes. And how you want to find these pieces? Well, wisdom trainings and purple memory boost. That's why they're really important, and that's why they're crucial staples to so many decks out there. So yeah, in the early stages, that's how you want to be searching, making sure you grab your pieces. The ideal stack that you really want to build is always going to be Digivolving into Goblimon, and then from Goblimon into Ogremon and Raising. And that's because it's going to give you that trashing gain memory combo. Sometimes there are some suboptimal stacks that you might end up having to go into, such as Digivolving into like a Gazimon, which you don't get all the luxury of inheritable. Ignitemon is not bad either, but you ideally want to save it for the Merva crossplay later, because your Ignitemon being under your Anubis stack means that you want to keep it alive, and with Ignite being absent from the Merva cross, that's going to be a hit, a bit of a pain as well. But otherwise, as you're Digivolving, you might sometimes go into Dobermon, and then another slightly suboptimal might be going to Saberdramon. Saberdramon is that something that you want to keep in hand, so you want to trash it later because you get to play it back with Mervamon. So that's the ideal stack that you want to go for if you can. Don't be too greedy with it. Sometimes you just have to go without some of the inheritables, then you go without it. But the one crazy thing is that all you need is really 1 memory, and not even some of these boosts to go for that actual full combo. But let's just say we utilize some of these here, because you likely will set it up. So you move up here as Ogremon. If not, sometimes you move up as Goblimon. Use whatever resource you have. Make sure to calculate your memory gain so that you can retain your turn and how much you're passing to your opponent. So you could, because that's a very, very important aspect to keep in mind when you're playing this deck. So let's just say you do use Wisdom Training here, and you then Digivolve into Blue Mervamon for 1 cost only. You draw 2 and you trash 2. And like I mentioned earlier, the pieces that you want to set up in trash would ideally be Mervamon, potentially even a Death-X if you're planning to go into it earlier on, a Saberdramon, Dobermon, and as well as what I talked about earlier, Ignitemon. And even some of your Gazi and Sykes too. Setting them up in your trash can help you potentially play them. So that's what you want to be looking at. And because the fact that you trashed cards from your hand, immediately Goblimon's going to gain you a memory, Ogremon's going to gain you a memory as well. So effectively, if you started the turn at 1, you would have done the same thing, pay 3, and then you've gone back to 0. And then we steal your turn, and you can still go into Anubis to finish off the combo. But here, ideally, you have a little bit more memory to work with for yourself. And don't forget, Tsunomon's going to draw you an extra card as well. Very, very important. Once per turn too. And this is when you want to go into Anubis. When you go into Anubis, you pay 4. Well, whether you've used Purple Memory Boost or if you use a combination of Wisdom Trainings or whatever, that's totally fine. But let's just say, let's go for the full one. You pay 4, you Digivolve in Anubis. Anubis, you draw for Digivolving. What it's going to do is that it's going to trash up to 3 cards from your hand. You want to ideally trash up to 3. You might even want to throw away Spada, which we'll talk about here just in a bit. And say you do, and you get to resolve a bunch of effects here. Well, first you're going to be playing Mervamon for reduced cost of 6, making her 5. And when you play her, you're going to Digicross. That's why you want to make sure you have Ignitemon underneath, so you reduce it by 3. So effectively, you're paying 2 to play Mervamon here. Now by playing Mervamon for 2, this is when you want to resolve a bunch of other effects first. Blue Mervamon is going to gain your memory for playing a Digimon. Anubismon's second effect, make sure to resolve that first so that you can pop your opponent's level 5. If not, you draw a card. Now with Mervamon on play, you activate Mervamon's on play, you play 2 bodies back out. Ideally, it can be your Saberdramon and your Dobermon. Your Dobermon gets to give someone retaliation. You can give it to Anubis so they can gain blocker, or you can give it to itself so it will gain that blocker and rush as well. So depending on how much memory you have, but now that because you played something, Ignitemon is going to gain your memory back, passing your opponent to 2. Now if you calculate your memory, let's just say if it's still your turn somehow, let's say you use a purple memory boost earlier on, you'll currently be at 0 memory, and now all you have to do is you can choose to go for aggressive plays. You can rush and attack with Dobermon, and not rush and attack with Saberdramon, or you can set up defensively with your blockers. And if you have Mervamon, I would always just kind of attack with her anyways. And Anubismon, you really want to attack because the longer the Anubismon stays on the board, the more value you can do it and continue with this kind of combo. Now the other thing is because Mervamon played something back out, such as your Saberdramon and Dobermon, for each instance that you play a Digimon, Anubismon's secondary last effect is not once per turn. So you get to pop another thing that's level 5 or draw another card at this moment before you do anything else afterwards. So anyways, like I said, let's just say we attack with Mervamon. If it ever gets deleted somehow, it's totally fine. And as long as Anubis stays alive, Anubis is going to bring it back out the next turn again with its main effect, which is absolutely bonkers and insane. And then you just swing and swing. Or you would continue to sort of pass to your opponent. If they can't deal with this board, the next turn, you just go at it and do the same thing all over again. And this is when you have access to probably a second Merva, and you would repeat the same combo all over again, and you would gain a lot of memory. So let's just say your opponent puts you to 1, for example. Then now let's use Anubismon's effect again. We trash 3 cards from our hand, and then we want to Digicross with another Merva, putting an Ignite underneath, effectively paying for 2 cost. Pop a level 5 or draw a card. Because you trash something, you gain 1/2 memory from Goblin and Ogre, and you also get to play something, so you gain a memory from Blue Mera. If your prior Merva is also here, you're gaining memory. Did you guys see what happened there? You're basically playing Merva for free, but you're gaining memory back at this point. And that's just absolutely insane. And then now Mervamon is going to play another 2 bodies, Saberdra and Dober X, and then you will gain 1 more of Ignite here. Essentially, you gain 3 memory from all of this altogether. It's just absolutely insane. Again, Dober X will give something like Retail, give it itself, so then it can rush for the attack. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks into your opponent's security, and you can just kind of like OTK just on that as well, which is absolutely bonkers, like I said. And another way is the follow-up plays afterwards. Sometimes when you swing with Merva, if you see, depending on the situation, you can go into Shangri Ruin mode to shut down your opponent completely when they come out, blanket 5k, delete the rest of the stuff that they have. If they have a rookie in the raising, they can't come out and go for a combo anymore. Just like that. Really, really good. Or, depending on what matchup situation, you might want to play your Gazi, or you might even want to play your Psychmon back from trash to floodgate against your opponent. This is when Psychmon comes in real handy, right? Once you establish such a big board like this is when you can play Psychmon, because then you don't really need to worry about Anubismon's effect anymore to sort of like not being able to reduce any further play costs. You have so many bodies and your opponent's going to have to deal with this if you know Psychmon's going to shut them off completely, especially when it comes to the mirror match too. Another crazy thing is your opponent has a lot of wide boards and whatnot. You can even use Anubismon to play Death X back from your trash, and then use Death X's own effect to reduce further on its play cost. You might get to play Death X for free, and then you get to nuke the board because of that. That's how crazy this is. And with Saberdramon, since it has Raid and Retaliation, if your opponent has a bigger body that you really need to deal with first, or even like a Floodgate rookie that's only that they have on the board, you can Raid into it, take it out, or even go into this bigger body, swing at it, delete itself, and Retaliate together. Now the other thing is, you guys might be asking why Spadamon here. This is the exact moment I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. If you say you play your first Merva, right, via Anubismon's effect, you play a Saberdramon and you play a Spadamon. Now what happens at this moment is, because you would play your Merva, your Anubis is going to let you pop a level 5 and draw a card. Now once you play the Merva is going to play these 2 bodies. Once you play these two bodies out, the first thing I would do is, if the opponent has a level 6 on the board, you can actually get rid of it. And that's what the Spadamon is here for, because you tuck the Spadamon underneath Mervamon now, so that you can de-digivolve their 6. Some really good examples would be like Mirage Galgamon that you have to deal with. You de-digivolve that Mirage Galgamon, turn it back into a Mac Galgamon on level 5, and then you resolve Anubismon's secondary effect again. Because you played something off of Mervamon's effect, you get to choose your sequence of effects. Anubismon will delete that level 5. That's why we play Spasmon, is because it can remove specific level 6s from the board without having been threatened, or very easily get rid of it. And that's just absolutely insane again with that Anubismon combo right here. And of course, that's when you just swing and swing and swing. Now the last part is I do want to explain explicitly why Maycrackmon Vicious Mode might be the better, like, you know, chain up that you're sort of like trying to get rid of Floodgate rookies. Now, same combo as before, you have all the setup right here, Ogremon. You Digivolve into Maycrackmon for 4, for example. So you pay, you know, you say you're at 2 and you paid 4, for example. You trash a card from your hand to pop the level 3 or Digimon that the opponent has. Now, because you trashed a card from your hand, at least from Ogremon and Goblymon, you can gain that memory back and then go for the same play of going into Anubismon now, pay 4, so you can clear that Floodgate rookie that the opponent has on the board while you're going up through this entire stack. And of course, like I mentioned, you might have Wisdom Trainings and Purple Memory Boost that can be using, and you can sort of retain your turn. So you might be at 0 or even at 2 even after all of this, and then you get to do the whole Merva cross all over again, which is really, really good. And then again, you go really wide and just swing your opponent's security non-stop, and you repeat all that combos, and that's kind of how you win the game. And the last thing I do also want to talk about is the usage of Leviamon. Leviamon is also really good sometimes if you want to Digivolve on top, if you build a stack. Again, outside you can go into like Blue Mera, and then Blue Mera into Levia here, or sometimes if Leviamon was in trash, you can trash 3 cards from Anubis, reduce the play cost by 6, and then you might even play Leviamon for 7 costs, which is totally fine, but then you gain all this memory back for trashing cards and for playing cards. And Leviamon in that right situation can pop a lot of your opponent's Digimon. If you pop 2 things, Leviamon itself is going to gain 2 memory back as well, and effectively you're gaining so much memory, you might only be playing Leviamon for 2 costs or even 1 cost because of that. And that's just how insane this deck really is, and that's how you want to play Anubismon. So yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy combos. So like always, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Digimon deck profiles and gameplay content on here. Speaking of gameplay content, if you want to see this deck in action and how strong, mighty, crazy all this in action is, definitely watch this video right here, right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.